Hi, my name's Gabby, and here I am with my roommates.
I'm Ninwa.
I'm Genesis.
So, to start off this discussion on police abolition, I want to start out with the question, what is your guys' stance on the police?
I think the police are needed. Like some type of force that regulates the laws is needed, but I think the way that the police, like to become a police, the structure of it and everything, there's a lot of errors and not enough requirements and tests to get the best results within like societies and towns and stuff, which is why you see a lot of like police brutality and why people want to abolish the police. But at the end of the day, I think that there should be some type of force that regulates the laws, but in a better way.
What do you
I
think?
definitely see that there's like a problem. How Ninway was saying, how it's like structured. Like when they're preparing police officers, they're trying to enforce the law, but I don't think they even know, like, in order to enforce the law, you have to know the laws. I think there needs to be more of more education needed to become a police officer, and then also like whether you can, if you're qualified enough. I feel like there needs to be like more of a more rigorous, more requirements.
Like with mental health, like how you can handle being in the force kind of thing. More training.
So then, two other questions before I get into my opinion. Is like, so imagine like a world without the police. Like how would you like envision that to be? Like if we like in our society, right, like say tomorrow they got like rid of the police, like there's no police system. Like how do you think that would look?
I think I would feel very uneasy about that, because if I'm in a situation where like someone breaks into my house, I'm gonna call the police. Like that's the first person I'm gonna call. Or say something bad happens, your first instinct you're taught to do is like call the police. Someone's robbing me or something like is going on. But also there is that aspect that like police do cause harm to people as well. So I think that it would cause more harm than good, but there would be some good aspects, like less police brutality would happen. But then again, like when there's crimes, like what are we gonna do about that?
Come for the help.
Yeah, so more harm than good, but
For me it would be like kind of hard to imagine a life without police, because how Ninway was saying, like ever since we were little, like we've been taught to call 911 if anything bad happens. And then obviously how Ninway was saying, police there is problems within the police like academy or whatever, but I don't know what to say. I don't know.
Yeah. So like when you guys say like if you're in a like dangerous situation, like the first person you call would be the police. Like do you, like with everything that's happened, like do you still feel safe around the police? Cause like I personally, I've never like been like victimized by the police. I don't know anyone that has. But still, like if I see a cop, like I still kind of get scared. Like if I'm driving and I see a cop like pull behind me, I get like more
tense.
Yeah, tense.
I think it's just because we've heard so many stories about police making people out to be criminals or doing a crime when they're not.
Yeah.
But so that's why we get uneasy when we're around them. I get like that too, honestly. Like if I'm walking in a big city and I walk past the police, I'm like not even doing anything wrong, but I feel like they might come and question me for no reason. But in scenarios where like a crime is already going on, I feel like you feel more easy to call them, because like you're not the person committing the crime, you're the victim.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, I feel like when you're the victim, it's easy to call them, but when you're just out and about and you could be like criminalized for no reason, or like profiled for no reason, that's when you feel like uneasy, which is why you need to get more like training with the police so they don't have that stigma anymore and people don't feel like uneasy like that.
Do you guys feel like the police is more just like serves as like intimidation rather than like protection?
I think it should serve some type of intimidation, because if you're not intimidated by the law and you're not fearful of
Then
the
no
law,
one's gonna
follow the law. Like if I'm not scared of getting arrested for doing something wrong, then why would I not do the like wrong, like break the
There's
law?
no consequences.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like not fear of like getting killed, obviously, that's like a different story, but fear of getting arrested should be a thing. But fear of losing your life to the police it shouldn't be that much fear. In
that's
like
severe.
America. Yeah, it should just be like limited to like I'm gonna get arrested kind of thing.
But like in the case like how you brought up like just walking down the street, you're not doing anything, but you still feel intimidated. Like, do you still feel like I just feel like cops like their presence in society has just like leaned more towards like the intimidation factor and like just control rather than like actually serving, like to protect and serve is like to what their like motto is.
I think walking down the street and having that like intimidation, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's also like not the best thing ever. It's like if I wasn't intimidated by that cop, then what's stopping me from committing a crime right now, even with him there? If I was not intimidated by him, then I would commit a crime even in his presence. So it's like he wouldn't like he doesn't have the power. Yeah, it would be kind of like he doesn't have. I see that he doesn't have power. He can't do anything about it. And if I see that, then like most people are gonna see cops as powerless, and the only thing stopping people from committing like crimes is the power that the law holds. Not the cops, but the law that enforce the cops that enforce the law. But it shouldn't be to the point like intimidation shouldn't be to the point where I'm like scared.
Fearing for your life. Yeah, that is.
So do you guys think it's more so just like regulating, like how you said? Yeah.
I think that's like the purpose of the police to maintain like civilness and then peace within societies.
Do you guys know like the history of like how the police like began?
Very roughly. Not really, like I don't know.
Like what do you know, like roughly? Or like nothing?
I think it's bad. It's something. Was it with?
I think it had something to do with slavery.
Yeah.
Like,
So it like during when slavery was legal, what's it called? There was like a slave patrol, and their whole purpose was to just go out, like pursue, find, and capture like runaway slaves, and then like punish them. And then once the law was passed for slavery to like emancipation, and like the slaves were acknowledged that they were free, even though they've been free. Those like slave patrol, they turned into like police, like militia groups, and they just kind of carried on like the whole purpose. But instead of it being like you're capturing these people and like returning them back to the plantations, it's like you're just continuing that control over them. Whether it's like they're like enforcing like black codes, like this, so it like evolved from slavery into like Jim Crow and segregation. So like there was never like they were freed, but they really weren't free because that policing system just continued on with them. So like whether it was like them capturing freed slave or runaway slaves, which turned into just like you can't sit here, kicking them off the bus, just like enforcing the segregation laws, like they were still like imposing that like control and like oppression over them. So I feel like that's just I feel like that ties into one of the like misconceptions, that like if you take away the police, that like it's just gonna leave like disorder, which is like what you guys are saying. But I think like the whole purpose is to dismantle that system of like oppression, especially towards like people of color and like especially black people, especially like in the United States. And then just like even homeless people, like we've seen like how they treat homeless people and they like kind of target them, I guess. But yeah, so like another question is, or like, do you guys have any concerns about like what would happen if the police was gone?
Yeah, what is like the other resource to call when like crimes happen?
So like an alternative like idea to replacing the police if it were abolished would be to have like specialized groups that focus in like a certain area. So like there could be a special group that focuses on like responding to violent crime. So so like murders, rapes, things like that. And then there's like a special group for gender violence, so like domestic violence, people who've been raped, and then like mental health. If someone's having like a mental health crisis, like an episode, and they need help from a therapist, not just like a cop responding, they can get that help. Cause like one of the, like, do you guys know how often like people have like they get killed by the police when they're just having a mental health episode?
How often?
Um, 1 in 5 people get killed by the police, and since 2015, over 1,500 people have been shot by the police while responding to like a mental health episode. So I know like recently there was like I think he was 21 and he was on the bridge, like he was on the edge of a bridge and he was gonna jump off.
Oh my god, killed him?
He was gonna commit suicide, so the cops responded to like get him off. And they got him off, and when he was standing, like he was following their orders. He had his hands in the air. He had a toy gun, but like obviously you can see it's a toy gun, because they were like at close range. But he was following their orders, and he moved, and he had his hands up, and they shot him, and they killed him.
Oh my god.
And there's been other like
Dude,
There's-
that's so messed up.
yeah, there's been other times where I know there was a caregiver, he was black as well, but he was taking care of, I believe the person he was taking care of, he had autism or Down syndrome. And the police responded to a call that there was someone having like disorderly conduct, so they like responded to the call and they were like antagonizing the whole thing. So that was just like one alternative to get rid of. And it kind of just goes back to like how you guys say like police are not trained at all in like
Yeah.
mental health, like they're just not trained overall, like in general, but like especially in like specialties like that. So
I
like
think they should go to school for like 4 years.
yeah, like so that like ties into the thing like where people say that like we have to like if a doctor has to go to school for
Yeah,
like 20 plus
so
years.
long.
They have like your lives in their
Yeah,
hands.
and like a cop, they have so much power in our system
Yeah.
that they can just go through like a couple years of
It's,
training.
yeah, it's not even hard.
It's not even a couple years, it's like maybe 10 months,
Yeah.
like 6 10
And they're
months.
the ones actually like in the
Out
community.
there.
Yeah, they
like,
have the
dealing
power.
with all of this.
I think
yeah.
it's just because you have to mass produce them because you need a lot of people on the force. So like with doctors, nurses, and stuff like that, you don't want to mass produce them, and it's like the faster you mass produce them, the lower the quality. And with police, it's like you mass produce them so much, the quality of the police officer is so low, and it's
That's
'cause
true.
you have to mass produce them so fast and keep up with it. The schooling is so low, but that's not like correct. That's not like the right approach, I would say.
Yeah.
I think your approach, like the having special categories,
Mhm.
I think that's a good idea. But I feel like for people that are just like on the streets and stuff,
Mhm.
it's hard to respond to a like problem. Like say someone calls 911, they don't even know what's going on. They don't know if it's a mental health thing. They don't know if it's like a murder or whatever. Like it's hard to distinguish what is going on in that moment. So to call that like 911 and be like, oh, I need this specific thing, or like this is going on, it's hard to get that certain area that you were saying. Like you know how you're saying like have certain
Different
forces
areas. Yeah.
Okay.
and specialize in certain things. I think that they should just be instead of specialized, just knowledgeable of all the factors. Like if they need to know how to respond to someone that's having a mental breakdown, or like how to respond to a scenario where someone has like a weapon. Like you don't shoot someone just because they have a weapon, you know?
Mhm.
You try to that's like your last resort, but in today's society it seems like it's their first resort to
Yeah.
kill before even thinking twice about it. So I feel like they should just be better trained, longer schooling, more knowledgeable of any kind of circumstance that they can come across, whether it's mental health, like or a murder